Today we're going to look at who are the most skilled S-class heroes when it comes down to pure martial prowess, and rank them together in grades. Then at the end, we're going to see just who stands atop the rest regarding sheer skill alone. These grades are not on scale of power, but scale of finesse. So being able to blow up a mountain with ease, or simply being the fastest man alive, isn't going to cut it here. For the sake of making it more interesting, I'll include the S-class heroes who are currently retired or doing other things in the manga, since we don't want any of them to feel left out. As a disclaimer before we begin, I'd like to believe that all of the S-class heroes are very impressive individuals, so even if they seem low rated here, they're still generally absolute beasts of combat, and these are simply in comparison to fellow high class standards of the S rank. And in case you didn't know, this is Saitama World, a channel dedicated to the anime and manga of One Punch Man. So if you're a fan who wants to keep up on all the fun we have here with Saitama and friends, subscribe for more. Before we get into it, quick note, this video will mention manga moments too. Starting off with Metal Knight, it's fairly obvious that his machines and stunning intellect do all the heavy lifting in his hero work, meaning karate chops and spinning back kicks aren't anything he's ever needed to have in his locker. This man's been living the lockdown lifestyle thanks to his army of remote controlled robots, so while he's one of the lucky ones who gets to work from home still, it doesn't do him any favors in this list. It's absolutely certain that he has immense talent when it comes to the world of technology, but that's not the skill this list is based around. Metal Knight goes in bronze grade. Hopefully he won't press the big red button in his office after seeing this. Pig God waddles onto the list next. Wiping the greasy corners of his mouth with a napkin you could probably sleep under, but it's evident that he has not been getting his skill dense nutrients. It is true that the big fellow certainly has the strength and speed to keep up in the world of S-class and its opposing monsters, however those raw stats are what keeps him playing at such a level. Unfortunately, his greatest asset of all, the ability to eat, is not going to count as technical ability unless this was a list for the most talented binge eaters of all time. Foodies, your hero is not due for a W on this one, so without much more explanation needed, we're sitting him at the bronze grade all you can eat table. And then there's King, bronze grade.
Brother, this guy!
Come on, but it does beg the question, if Child Emperor or Metal Knight made a powerful robot which could be controlled by a handheld video game pad, just how deadly would it be in the hands of King? From the depths of prison comes a brawler known as Puri Prisoner. While his specialties may be harassment and public nudity, it just so happens that the prison-strapped bruiser can throw hands, and hard. While undertaking your own journey and learning Angel style will no doubt put you on your neighborhood's watch list, Prisoner has used that fighting style to pummel numerous criminals and monsters into defeat, throwing devastating punches with fierce technique and mixing it in with movements exploding from raw strength and speed. Prisoner can overwhelm many foes with more knuckles than you'd find in the Sonic franchise. However, while impressive, this fighting style is unrefined in comparison to greater ones and relies more on insane physical stats and brutish nature to keep it firing, and will generally have few options left when running into someone who hits harder and faster. For this, Puri Prisoner is sentenced to silver grade. Love One Punch Man too? Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to keep in the S-class conversation with everything anime manga on One Punch. Home runs and headaches are in store for you next because we've got Metal Bat on the scene. Some people underrate Metal Bat's prowess because they simply view him as some dude swinging for the hills. However, it's not quite so straightforward. Sure, Metal Bat isn't going to be at the top levels of the skill leaderboard, however he's added his own spin to using that blunt weapon. With fancy techniques like Brutal Tornado, Overkill Spiral and Brutal Hurricane, he's become more than just some strong dude waving a bat around, and has effectively upgraded himself into a marauding tank capable of various offense. Unfortunately for Metal Bat, it's been shown how effortlessly a tremendous martial artist can expose the holes in his game, so his struggles against more technical fighters highlight the improvements he needs to make. Even still, we've seen him use that bat to pummel, slice and swat enemies into defeat through a creative spectacle of violence, and for that, he's touched all bases for silver grade. Now, if this guy were being judged for his ability to wear tank tops, he'd be number one. Although, since it's skill we're looking at, let's find out how Tanktop Master gets on. Similarly, a bruiser type like that of Prisoner, Tanktop isn't specifically known for his martial arts prowess, and instead bases the majority of his offense around stunning feats of brute force. He uses crushing punches and powerful grappling to pound and subdue opposition into submission. However, while those skills may allow him to flirt along the muddied space of bronze and silver, there's an aspect to his game which helps turn the tide to the shinier result of the two, his marksmanship. For whatever reason, Tanktop Master has ridiculous accuracy as demonstrated whenever it's time to throw debris. He managed to successfully block lethal attacks from Psycho Orochi against his hero allies who were fighting high up in the sky at frightening levels of speed in jet forms. Not to mention his super displays of accuracy were an integral part of the plan to deal severe damage to Psycho Orochi, as shown when he was entrusted to hurl the building chunk towards her, which concealed multiple heroes within. And for that marksmanship coupled in with his other aspects, he's thrown himself into silver grade. Moving on, Drive Knight is up for judgment. He's a bit of a strange one in a conversation like this since his battle showings are also varied. However, in my opinion, that classifies as a strength. Drive Knight's constant transformations prove that he's a combatant who has respectable pedigree in various forms of combat. We've seen him use multiple melee weapons and vehicular weapons against both mid and high level opposition. I think due to this, he's somewhat a jack of all trades in battle, meaning he has enough skill across enough areas to keep him a player in almost any frame of contest, even more so when coupled in with his tactical acumen. This versatility alone showcased against monsters of notable threat is more than enough to keep him away from bronze grade. However, this same lack of specialty stops any of those styles being fleshed out enough to compete with the true masters of their craft. A lot of useful skills code this cyborg skill level to silver grade. This could definitely go higher if he is shown in future to trade blows convincingly with martial art veterans via his skills rather than sheer tech, but for now, I'll leave him here. Posing for his grade, we have Superalloy Darkshine. Sporting muscles that have muscles which have muscles, overwhelming strength and defense are extreme aspects of this man's game. However, with that being said, it's these very qualities which hinder his ability to place any higher than similar colleagues of his, Prisoner and Tanktop. While I have seen it stated before somewhere that Darkshine is considered to be on par with Bang as a physical fighter, I believe that is being said in the sense that, with everything taken into account, he's just as dangerous. I do not believe that they intended it to mean that this man has the same grasp of martial arts that someone like Bang does. Case in point, Darkshine has sparred Bang before and has fought Garo too, and martial arts wise, he has been smoked by both. Now, Bang didn't do any lasting damage to Darkshine, and Garo didn't put him down either, but it is clear by those battles that Darkshine was being struck like a gong by his opponents whenever they felt like hitting him. Darkshine only managed to not lose those encounters by the blessing of his insane durability. At no point was he matching the level of skill shown by either, and his outrageous defense kept him in the game despite being treated like a punching bag. With that being said, he's obviously not a schmuck in a fistfight, since to his credit he did land on Garo, although that's more of a plus to his overwhelming strength than technical finesse. Maybe he's in gold for some people, but for me, and what I've seen, his attacks are usually more that of a powerhouse than someone cultured in the arts, and that puts him on stage for silver grade. I know there's a panel out there somewhere of him doing a flying kick, but come on, one flying kick is not enough. Surprising to some in this area of the list, here we have Child Emperor. I'm a huge fan of this kid, and I think his future is incredibly bright. And while I will give him more credit out in the field than Metal Knight purely because he's actually standing on business in his polo shirt and shorts, he still has a ways to go in reaching the true S-class heights of physical skill. With that being said, Child Emperor, despite not having the same raw physical attributes most other S-class heroes have, has shown to survive tough situations against even tougher opponents while being within arm's reach of death, unlike Metal Knight, who is safe behind a screen. It needs to be remembered that Child Emperor fought a dragon level monster, Evil Natural Water, and evaded numerous attacks while using a beam saber and other clever gadgets he'd skilled with to fight back. To put this into perspective, Evil Natural Water defeated 3 high skill A-class heroes at once who are known specifically for their swordsmanship, all of which who would have a chance at being labeled as gold grade for level of skill in this list if they were included upon it. Yet Child Emperor's movement, gadget mastery, and saber skill allowed him to hold out alone against the Evil Natural Water's full focus for a respectable amount of time. It needs to be remembered that Emperor's raw body capabilities are far below fellow S-class heroes such as Prisoner or Tanktop, so this showing wasn't a case of him stat bruting his way through a situation involving a dragon level threat, but finessing it against the odds, which earns him extra points in a skill based list, especially when you add in that he's a child. This kid's got a great mind for leading heroes and building bots, however he also proved there's more to his game than meets the eye. Gold grade for our boy Isamu. Genos powers in and boasts a great mixture of skills, something of an all-rounder. Genos is a solid hand-to-hand combatant who harbors a wide arsenal of strikes and has proven to hold his own in skill testing encounters against the likes of martial art heavyweights such as Garo and Sonic, two characters who are very well versed in technical fighting ability. However, Genos' understanding and execution of those techniques are not quite to their level, and he has to make up the gap with those cyborg advantages a la explosions and beams. Still, it shows he's not some mindless brawler, since in the engagements with those opponents, it wasn't a case of him trying to outmuscle them in those strictly physical moments, but instead one where he was able to, at the very least, test those fierce opponents with his array of precise punches and pinpoint kicks before resorting to those robotic upgrades. Another great moment for him was still being able to trade with Deep Sea King even with just one arm, the same monster who beat Puri Prisoner without much protest. And even then, it took a dirty play to overcome the demon cyborg from the Sea Folk monster, showing that Genos is a very formidable student of the game. Since he doesn't wear a gi or practice kata, it might be easy to forget that Genos is one of the most battle-tested and proficient fighters in the series. Martial prowess second to only the greats, which lands him in the very respectable gold grade. Zombieman. This is an interesting one, isn't it? There's a train of thought I'm following here for where I'm placing him, so stay with me on it. Zombieman is an expert hand-to-hand combatant and skilled with a variety of weapons, ranging from axes to firearms. Here's another interesting thing. He's also rumored to be one of the physically weaker S-class heroes, lacking destructive power many of the others possess. So stick with me. If you don't have high power output, then you need to be very proficient in your skill to get the job done. Technique matters more than anything at that rate, since you lack dragon class slaying raw power, especially since Zombieman is relying on weapons and martial arts to finish off his foes. Now let's add to the fact that Zombieman has managed to defeat Pureblood, a vampire fast enough to catch bullets. Not dodge bullets, catch bullets. Zombieman even overcame Carnage Kabuto in a simulation, a monster which is dragon class and takes the likes of Darkshine to defeat, whereas initial S-class level Genos failed harshly. I feel like you guys know where I'm taking this. Zombieman wouldn't be able to harm Pureblood or Kabuto with low or even mid-level techniques and strategies, simply because he lacks the power to do so, which means his skill level is high enough to accurately deal devastating strikes against far stronger opposition with such proficiency to make his victory possible. You could argue that he'd be dead against those enemies anyway without regeneration, which you'd be correct in saying. However, the difference between him and someone like Darkshine is that if you gave Darkshine Zombieman's strength, his skill level does not allow him to take Carnage Kabuto down with strength anymore, whereas if you removed Zombieman's regeneration and gave him Darkshine's defense, even without the strength, he still has the martial arts or weapon mastery level required to execute Carnage Kabuto. Sorry if that got a bit complicated or dragging, but it's all to say that Zombieman's calculated fighting style, not reliant on sheer strength, capable of defeating demon or even dragon level foes, earns him a very bloody gold grade. Okay, so for this one guys, I want it to be clear that I'm not saying it with my chest, because as far as the anime and manga goes, we can't say for certain the true scale of Watchdog Man. What we do know is that he made a fool out of Garo in season 2, and he did it with ease. What we don't know is how much of that comes down to sheer strength and speed, and how much of that comes from him being a fighting genius. If Watchdog Man turns out to be an absolute god of a human being who can move faster than Flashy Flash and hit harder than Darkshine, then we can probably put the things we've seen him do down more to the raw attributes, like that of a Saitama, as opposed to a deity level of skill. However, if he turns out to be made of the same stuff as most other S-Class heroes, then perhaps we have to give this dog suit wearing lad a place among the most technically gifted fighters in the One Punch verse. There's no question that Watchdog Man is a total freak of nature. However, until we know in the manga how much of that is down to his raw stats and how much of that is owed to whatever close quarters canine combat course he took, it's tough to place him confidently. Clearly, he's good enough to parry a master level combatant like Garo, so for now, I'll play it safe and throw him a bone in gold grade. Alright, it's been a ride, but now we've reached the big boy section. Flashy Flash. Master of ninjutsu, this dashing ninja has proven to be at the peak of skill in both hand-to-hand combat and swordplay, further strengthening his claim to be in this tier of skill by also having proficiency over the tools of a ninja, such as his kunai. Flash is one of the very few heroes who were able to simultaneously fight 2 dragon class enemies at the same time, enemies who were also incredibly skilled ninja. Clearly, Flash is not the former top ninja of the 44th graduating class in the village for no reason. This master of combat also showed immense levels of skill when he contested both Platinum Sperm and Awakened Garo in that ferocious 3-way fight, trading punches and kicks with the 2 devilishly adept combatants, while not even having his sword available to him in that encounter. Added to this, he has an arsenal of killer techniques that showcase his domination over melee warfare. Flash Fist, Flash Kicks, and Windblade Kick, to name a few. There's absolutely no denying that Flash is one of the most skilled characters in the entire series when it comes to the art of killing, and for that, he is undoubtedly in platinum grade. Okay, admittedly, this particular hero in this list is a weird one for me. Tatsumaki. Now, anyone with a lick of sense knows that she is outrageously powerful, but obviously she's not a master martial artist or grandmaster weapon practitioner, so this list isn't really for her. With that said, I'm aware there are differing levels of espers in One Punch Man, and she's the best of them, so I'm torn between whether to classify that as a difference in skill of psychic ability or a difference of power between those people, and depending on how you see it, it affects where Tatsumaki would go on a list like this. Since even though psychic abilities are a powers based shindig, there's undoubtedly a level of precision and fine tuning to go with it. If you view telekinetic ability under a spectrum of skill, then the things Tatsumaki has done are absolutely outrageous in the realms of psychic proficiency. She's created dummies in the heat of battle capable of fooling dragon class opposition, and used her esper abilities to locate a poison pill within a human body, then transform it into a needle thin shape that could be extracted through the skin without dispersing the toxin. This level of precision is nothing short of surgical, and proves that beyond her usual offense of throwing objects and people around, Tatsumaki holds a frightening level of technical mastery over her power, further shown throughout her legendary battle against Psychos where her esper talents were put to the test. Platinum grade is where I'd place the one and only Terrible Tornado. However, I can completely understand the viewpoint of if you'd want to disqualify her from this list due to how murky the waters discerning power and skill can be when it comes to psychic ability, since it can be tough to gauge just how much of it is skill and how much of it is raw supernatural power. So take this one how you will. Next up in this tier should be no surprise to anyone. The man who sits atop the hero world, Blast. Since Blast was able to defeat the most dangerous ninja in the world in the past, Empty Void, his skills are already cemented among the top of the food chain. This is significant because Empty Void is known to be above the level of both Sonic and Flash, 2 characters who already far surpass the majority of this series' cast for skill alone. Also back during the Monster Association arc, Blast showed he was capable of using his own fighting skill to contend with Cosmic Garo, utilizing his movements and portals to temporarily contain the ridiculously powerful opponent's attacks at that time. Being able to fight genius level fighters like Cosmic Garo and Empty Void in combat is proof enough he deserves to be in this category, and even the use of his powers demonstrate insane technical skill. His portal creation requires accurate precision in ever-changing combat conditions under high pressure, and with this ability he seamlessly is able to mix in his martial arts prowess to create a signature brand of hand-to-hand portal combat. This is further shown by how he dismantled the Heavenly Ninja Party, which were giving Flashy Flash and Sonic trouble with no issue at all. Of course, his superior speed and strength no doubt played a part, but again it shows that only those who have reached the pinnacle of power through their skills can contend with him at this point. Overall, Blast has achieved the highest level by combining astounding power with heroic levels of skill, allowing him to stand proud in platinum grade. Slicing his way to the top, were you ever in doubt that this man would be here? Kamikaze, known as Atomic Samurai, the strongest swordsman in the world. Among heroes, his skill with the blade is simply unrivaled. Complete and total mastery of the katana is at play when Kamikaze steps on the field of battle, and the ability to slash so precisely that his accuracy enters the atomic level are how he got his name. To truly perceive the level of Kamikaze's skill is near maddening. His displays are not just a show of speed and strength, but fatal artwork in how each and every strike is calculated with focused intent. His technique is so stellar that it leaves both friend and foe stunned in awe once the dust settles and they realize the outcome of his prowess. Countless pieces of the enemy to an unrecognizable rain. The man even used a toothpick precisely enough to slice a monster to ribbons with barely an ounce of effort. A memorable showcase of his technique was shown against his fight with Black Sperm, a multiplying opponent who duplicated himself every time he was cut into separate pieces. So what did Kamikaze do? Against a dragon class foe, he had enough mastery of his slashes to accurately shred numerous clones until flesh was flapping like the pages of a book, finally dicing one of the series' most dangerous monsters into paper-thin slices to counteract its separation. It'd be futile to speak on Kamikaze's accomplishments by the sword because, well, there's so damn many that we'd be here for too long admiring the atoms of corpses left in his wake. Atomic Samurai slices into platinum grade without a doubt and holds the highest skill level of any hero on this list thus far. However, one more remains. Silverfang, the physical embodiment of technical fighting ability, and the man even Atomic Samurai acknowledges most in hero society. This old boy needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. The creator of the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist and Exploding Heart Release Fist, former champion of the Super Fight Tournament, and a man said to stand at the top of martial arts alongside his brother. Bang is truly a revered grandmaster of hand-to-hand combat, and his skills are so legendary they demand the respect from both monsters and mankind alike. There is no greater technician in the realm of martial arts. His techniques have countlessly proven their majestic and fierce effectiveness in all stages against man, beast, and monster, showing that his mastery has allowed his strikes to punch far beyond what any martial artist should be capable of. Some of Bang's accolades include schooling fellow S-Class heroes in sparring. He toyed with Metal Bat by deflecting or dodging all of his attacks with ease in the Chiranko Learning audiobook, and Darkshine stated that he couldn't land a single hit on Bang in their spar while being struck constantly by Bang throughout their engagement. Bang was also able to match monsterized Garo in physical combat despite his former student's insane power boost from the monsterization process and supernatural ability to perfect fighting styles in alarming time. Even when outmatched for speed and power by Garo, Bang was still able to dominate the majority of their fight and even landed the more accurate final blow within the climax of their duel. And all of this while Bang himself was holding back somewhat in that very fight by not taking the openings to use Exploding Heart Release Fist himself and using moments of the fight to verbally reach his former student. If that wasn't enough, countless feats of extraordinary nature are coming from him at the age of 81 years old, further showing how unrivaled his skills are to do the things he does against the process of aging and his own declining body. No McDojos here. Silverfang is the real deal and the most skilled unarmed hero in the history of One Punch Man. Platinum grade. And so, there you have it. The S-Class heroes ranked into groups by their perceived levels of martial prowess. But who is number one? Well, I think it comes down to what you view as the more impressive accomplishment. Mastery of unarmed combat or mastery of swordsmanship. Saitama World will grant the title of S-Class's most skilled combatant to Silverfang, although I wouldn't begrudge anyone for choosing Atomic Samurai either. I give the nod between the two to Bang on the basis that he's proved his mettle against the most dangerous mix of overwhelming power and overwhelming skill at the same time via his clash with monsterized Garo, and also because of how visually beautiful it is to see the mastery of Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist in action every time we're given the honor to watch it control the flow of battle with such majesty. So, via the stamp of Saitama World, I present to you, pound for pound, the most skilled fighter in S-Class and the hero organization as a whole, Silverfang. But he's actually retired in the manga now, so I guess it's technically Atomic Samurai if you want to keep it to the current roster. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe, give me your thoughts in the comments below, and check out the other videos on this One Punch Man dedicated channel. See you next time.